This is a download from BFM 89.9, the business station.
Good morning, this is Frida Liu and it's Raise Your Game. I'm here with Ron Kaufman, who is a premier thought leader, educator, consultant and speaker on uplifting customer service and building service cultures. Rated one of the top 25 Who's Hot Speakers by Speaker Magazine, Ron presents the powerful insights and global best practices he has learned from working with clients on every continent for more than 20 years. He's also the best-selling author of Uplifting Service, a proven path to delighting your customers, colleagues and everyone else you meet, and many other inspiring books in service and business. He's also the founder of Up Your Service, a company that enables organizations to build uplifting service cultures and enjoy a sustainable advantage. Known well throughout Asia, he's a regular columnist at Bloomberg Business Week and has been featured in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal and USA Today. And he will be in Malaysia for the Achieving World-Class Results Through People, Service and Sales Conference, which takes place on the 28th of August, brought to you by TMI Consulting. So welcome, Ron, and it's a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you very much. It's a delight to be with you and all of our listeners today.
All right. And our focus today will be on how to build a better business with service. And it seems that many companies across many industries have taken on this is the best we can do attitude when it comes to customer service. But your book, Uplifting Service, explains how companies can always uplift service. So what does that mean and how can companies do that?
Well, first of all, I'm terribly concerned when you say that companies or individuals say, well, this is the best we can do, because that's the beginning of the big decline. What we've seen in so many different areas of the world today is that people are always finding new ways to be able to step up and create more value for the people that they serve. And that word value is really key because the definition of the word service, which so many people don't really have a good definition for, is quite straightforward. Service is taking action to create value for someone else. And with that kind of a definition, it applies to everyone who's externally customer service facing, but it also applies to all of our colleagues when we're providing internal service. And because customers have choice about where to go and colleagues are always serving each other, people who keep stepping up are the ones who are winning today and will be winning tomorrow.
All right. And there's something very interesting that you have written is that the customer is always right isn't always true.
Well, we know that's not true, don't we?
And therefore isn't the best service language for companies to use with employees. So what elements should an uplifting service language include?
Well, let's take a look at that one that you just pointed out about the customer is always right. Let's face it, customers sometimes are just flat out wrong. Sometimes they're confused, they exaggerate, and they may even from time to time lie. But the customer is always the customer. And our job is to make the customer feel right, even if they're not right. So how do you do that? Well, let's say a customer comes to you and says, you guys are so slow, you're taking up all my time. But when you do the research, you realize that the reason that we weren't able to complete something is because the customer didn't fill out the form properly or didn't have all their information ready on time. But instead of going back to that customer and saying, well, it wasn't our fault, what you can say is, you've got a really good point. Time and speed are very important in today's world. Now, the customer thinks you just agreed with them, and you did agree with them on the importance of what they value, but you didn't necessarily agree that you were wrong with what it is that you did. So one critical element in building a common service language is to have everybody recognize that our job is to make the customer and your colleague feel important and feel valued.
Google and Zappos have mastered the art of hiring people who fit their service cultures. Now, what are a few of the elements for their service recruitment strategies, and how can other companies figure out what works for them? And I think also just want to bring out, like in Asia, where there seems to be, especially in Malaysia, there seems to be such a shortage of employees or talent. How do you do this?
Yes, well, first of all, recruitment, as you've pointed out, is one of what I call the 12 building blocks of an uplifting service culture. There are 12, and recruitment is one of those. In fact, it's block number 3. And as you pointed out, what makes Google and Zappos successful is that they put such incredible rigor and effort into making sure that the people that they hire are the right people. Now you ask the question, how can people who are listening to this or people in Malaysia do a better job? And my point for them is the following. When you build a really strong service culture, not only does that organization give customers a better service experience, but it also becomes a better place to work because everyone inside the organization is focusing on service not only to the external customer, but also to each other. And when you've got a culture where people are focused on serving one another, making each other successful, creating value for your colleagues and with your colleagues, that kind of a culture will naturally attract, retain, and develop the best people. But if you're the employer, if you're the boss, how do you make sure that you're going to get the right people in? Well, let me give you one example. Let's say that you're a team-focused organization. You need people to collaborate and cooperate to make good results. In the interview process, then you should be asking candidates questions like these. Tell me about a time when you were involved in something really successful. What was it? What happened? Tell me something you're most proud of in the previous places that you work. Tell me something that you consider to be a big success in your career. And then listen very carefully to how they answer the question. In their answer, if they say me, I did, then that's one kind of person. But if another person says we, our, together, that's the kind of person you're looking for. Somebody who naturally attributes the highest success in their career to the success of their team, not just to their own individual performance.
Wow. Right. You also make a key distinction between customer service training and customer service education. Now, what's the difference between the two?
Well, I think that's incredibly important for a country like Malaysia because there's such an intense focus in the entire Asian part of the world on training people and getting more training hours and investing more training dollars. And I said, look, training is important when you need someone to know exactly what to do in a specific situation. That's why, for example, pilots are put into simulators and are thrown very difficult situations so that they are absolutely trained what to do. But the problem in a service environment, whether it's external customer service or internal service to colleagues, is that you can't always predict everything that the other person is going to need or require. Customer situations are always changing. Circumstances are always evolving. So if all we're doing is training people how to follow a script, how to use a checklist, how to follow a certain procedure, what's going to happen when the customer comes with a question they've never heard before? What's going to happen when a colleague needs to think, if you will, out of the box and come up with a new idea? Well, if all you've provided is customer service training, naturally those employees are going to escalate their questions right back up the line and say, hey, you didn't train me what to do. Now, by contrast, in education, we teach people how to think. We actually teach people fundamental principles and then help them figure out how to apply those principles in new service situations. So, for example, if you have children, you don't just want them to be well trained, you want them to be educated. And in the world of service today, we also need to educate our employees, not just train them.
Right. What about reward and recognition? How important is that in building and uplifting service culture?
Yes, well, actually, it turns out that in the area of service, where you're asking people to take action to create value for somebody else, the recognition is actually even more important than the reward. Now, I'm not saying rewards are not important, but it's more like a hygiene factor that needs to be there. But it's the recognition, the pat on the back, the public applause, the private note that can make the emotional impact in the way that you're basically saying thank you to your employees for doing that and please do it again. Now, what can make this so powerful and so culturally strong is when you create recognition opportunities not only for great external customer service, but also for internal service, for service improvement, for service recovery, for better service between departments, for improved service to new customers, to loyal customers, to upset customers. There's nothing stopping you from developing an entire range of service recognition programs, activities, and awards, and those are some of the things that keeps people's fire burning, keeps that fire alive and their desire to go out of their way and take new steps to serve other people well.
I'm here with Ron Kaufman, and we're discussing how to build a better business or service, and we'll continue our discussion in just a moment in Race Your Game, BFM 89.9. This is Race Your Game on Enterprise, and I'm here with Ron Kaufman, who is a premier thought leader, educator, consultant, and speaker on uplifting customer service and building service cultures, and he'll be one of the speakers at the Achieving World-Class Results Through People, Service, and Sales Conference on the 28th of August, and we're discussing how to build a better business with service. Now, what role does voice of the customer play in the process? What's the best way for companies to encourage the customers to give them feedback?
Great question, Frida. The voice of the customer is another one of the 12 building blocks of uplifting service culture. And you ask, what's the best way? Well, the fact is there isn't just one way. One way is to solicit. For example, you can actually send out a survey. You can give people comment forms. You can have the feedback card on the desk. You can have the interview, at the point of departure or the point of arrival or any point during the service process. But you can also have what you call unsolicited comments coming in, and you want your people to encourage that. Now, what that means is that every single staff member in every face-to-face contact, over the counter, over the phone, over the web, through email, should be having wide open ears to listen for what customers are saying and then invite them to say even more. So that voice of the customer can be institutionalized by bringing it in through surveys and hotlines, but it can also and should also be encouraged by each and every employee.
Now, a company's most loyal customers can be created when a company handles a problem or complaint the right way. So what companies succeed at service recovery today?
Well, by the way, this is one of the reasons why the title of the book is called Uplifting Service, and listeners can go to upliftingservice.com and get the whole first section of the book for free. In a service recovery situation, when a customer has been disappointed, when somebody's been let down, when their expectations have not been met, the first step is to fix the problem. But that's just one level. If you fix the problem and demonstrate your genuine concern with an apology, some empathetic caring, that's the second level. But if you use that moment, that opportunity, to do something above and beyond what the customer expects, when you do what we call bouncing up or bouncing back to a higher level of customer experience than if the problem had never even happened, you can turn that upset adversary into an enthusiastic advocate. And that's what we mean by bouncing back through service recovery. It's another one of the key building blocks of building an uplifting service culture.
Also in your book, Uplifting Service, you write about the importance of service role models. So what can companies do to ensure that service role modeling happens at every level, the top, the bottom, and the middle?
That's right, and it doesn't just mean walking the talk, it also means talking the talk. In other words, the person at the board level or the C level needs to understand the same common service language that's being used by people all the way down at the front line. That phrase that you used, lead from all levels, we chose very specifically, and it's included in the very first section of the book, Uplifting Service. What we're saying is that in building an uplifting service culture, it's not just the boss's job. It's not just for the people who are at the top of the pyramid or up in the boardroom or at the C-level suite. Anyone could actually take the lead to set the mood, for example, within your department, or to set the tone for the day in your shift. Now, you know this, Frida. If you come into the radio station one day and you say, hello, everybody, what a great day, you can actually impact the mood of the entire group for the entire day. That isn't something that you have to wait for the chairman to tell you to do. It's something that you can do, which is an example of leading from any level.
Now, which companies or industries today do you think suffer most from a lack of uplifting service?
Well, I actually think in every industry you're going to find some company that doesn't yet recognize that creating an uplifting service experience and an uplifting service culture is going to be critical for their future. And those are the ones that won't be around in another decade or so. So it's not so much that this industry or that organization has a problem. It's more a question of let's turn the mirror on ourselves. How committed are each of us when we come to work each day? Not just to, well, I'm going to do my job, or I know I do my job, you do your job. That's not good enough anymore. We need to all be willing to come to work and say every day, okay, what is my job? Who am I doing my job for? Who is getting value from the actions that I'm taking? are the actions that I'm taking the ones that are creating the highest level of value for somebody else? What else can I do today that I've never done before that will make someone else's job or life even better, even easier, experience even more value?
It's not my department. Now, which of today's companies are providing uplifting service?
Well, the historically famous ones, including American Express and Amazon.com and Apple Computer and Singapore Airlines and Ritz-Carlton Hotel and Nordstrom Retail, I mean, those legendary names have become legendary because they have built strong, uplifting service cultures. And I think for anyone listening to this today, you can probably think about a service provider in your life who does a really good job of serving you. One of the things that you can do to help make them more successful and to help build their culture is to exercise the power of being an uplifting customer. We often hear the phrase customer service and we think, well, that's the service provider's job. But that service is only one half of those two words. The other is the word customer. And each of us, when we are customers, can play a very strong role in giving more appreciation to our service providers and therefore naturally getting a better uplifting service experience.
All right, and you'll get to meet the legendary Ron Kaufman in the flesh. We're giving away one ticket a week worth 1,700 ringgit courtesy of TMI Consulting for the Achieving World-Class Results Through People, Service and Sales, which is happening on August 28th. And of course, you're going to meet legends like Ron Kaufman and Dr. Janelle Barlow. You can send your best service story to enterprise@bfm.my and be in the running. And on that note, thank you so much for your time, Ron, and we look forward to seeing you in Malaysia.
Thank you, Frida. Again, it's a pleasure to be with you, and your listeners can go to upliftingservice.com where they can get the whole first section of the book for free.
Race Your Game, BFM 89.9.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To find more great interviews, go to bfm.my or find us on iTunes. BFM 89.9, the business station.